Yeah, I'm comfy. How's this? How's the lighting? Is it bad
Lighting's
or?
great. Can you turn your phone horizontally?
Gosh, how's
That's
that?
better. Yeah,
All right.
we did it. Actually, I'm just gonna. Your light looks great. Mine doesn't.
Why do so many bars, restaurants, and hospitality venues fail, especially in the first year? The numbers are huge. And why did the other ones, like this one, succeed? Today we're going to talk to Eric Lincoln, who runs the business of Employees Only, to understand what the secret is. Here's Eric.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Great, thank you. So, why bars and restaurants fail all the time? If you talk to someone about going into business, often they'll start with, "Great, don't open a bar." But
Correct.
the people putting money into those are not idiots. So why do they fail despite the best efforts of quite smart people who put the effort into it, like the smart people behind them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the most perplexing things in the industry. There are smarter people that have opened bars that have failed than me in our group. I think sometimes it's a bad concept. I think a lot of people get wrapped up in something that they like, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to enjoy this." I think it's lack of systems. I come from the corporate world. Before I got into the restaurant industry, I worked in a very corporate place. I think you have to have your systems in place. That's number one. Not having financial management. That's a huge one that takes really good places down, unfortunately. You got to pay your taxes. You got to pay your purveyors. You got to pay your staff. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And I think people get into these black holes of financial constraint, and I've seen so many great places go down from that. And it's just some really brilliant people, again, that have come up with brilliant concepts, had great staff, great product, but missed those things. I think those three things, lack of cohesiveness as a partnership. It's really important how you choose your partners. As we've expanded, we have a lot more people that we work with, but we've been very selective and try to find the people that get what we're doing.
I can't imagine those people who are going into these businesses don't do some research beforehand, though. I mean, they're putting their life savings into it quite often. So what's the disconnect? If they were running a plumbing business or a mechanics workshop, I imagine they'd be on the ball. What is it about bars that makes people, I don't know, do they lose their mind? What happens? What's the disconnect?
Well, I think, listen, I've opened quite a few places in my career. You always think you've got it. There's always going to be so many hiccups, no matter how much planning goes into it. You have to have that flexibility at any moment. I mean, we're still changing every day, obviously, with everything that's happened. But prior to that, we never stood stagnant. From the day we opened the doors, even thriving, success, you've got to have flexibility. You've got to have those instincts of when you need to pivot here or there. And I think the other big one, and I see this from corporations that say, "Hey, we've got the money, we're going to open a restaurant." They hyper focus on the one thing or two things and don't see the big picture of it. And really, the restaurant, yeah, you definitely need to look at the little stuff. I used to make fun of one of my friends. He knew how many toothpicks they had in the house, but he didn't have any plan for the next quarter. Do you know what I mean? So he was counting the toothpicks, but not seeing the big picture of it. You're going to lose money week to week. Sometimes you're going to have extreme gains. And I think it's just being able to pivot those and just, like I said, having that instinct of knowing when you need to change things without losing your identity as a business.
Is one issue the fact that bars and restaurants are meant to be fun, but business isn't always fun? And so when the business side is getting unfun, these proprietors just go, "Well, I'll just focus on the fun bit. I'll just live here for a bit."
That's something that I think we do better than some. We really try to make it a fun work environment, because if your staff is having a good time, and there has to be a balance, you don't want your staff having more fun than the clientele. But if you can make it a safe, comfortable environment and not have robots and everyone doing the same thing, people come to bars and restaurants, obviously for the great food and drink and hopefully great service, but there's personalities there. I mean, the biggest thing I missed a lot during the pandemic, but is rolling up to a bar and just having a great conversation with a bartender. And I think a lot of people like that from their servers at the tables. And when you mix this corporate thing into it, that definitely gets lost. And I feel that's the big mistake a lot of people make. You can't force fun. Let's be real, right? We have friends that sort of are like the funniest, and then you have friends that aren't so funny, but they're still great to hang out with. Same for bars and restaurants. You need to already have that mindset. Like, we're not running hospitals. We want people to come in there, forget about the problems that they came in with, or at least be distracted for that hour or 2 hours that they're with us, and really enjoy it. And I think that starts with staff and the mentality that you put in when you're managing a place. This is supposed to be fun. And I think a lot of restaurateurs and people that get into this business forget that. And there is stress, but you can't bring that to the opening bell. You know, at 6 p.m. when we open at employees only, I'm in the office all day. It's not fun usually, but you'll see a smile on my face. I mean, not right now with the masks, but you'll see a smile at all times. And same with our staff. And that comes from the top, and it's something that you have to teach. You have to leave it all behind when you walk in those doors and you're ready to work and operate. Yeah.
So that brings me to my burning question, which is,
okay.
Which is, I know you run a really tight ship behind the scenes, but in the front of house, everyone, or the most consistent description, if I say, what do you think of employees only? Firstly, people who know it will start to smile kind of a bit uncontrollably. But then they'll say, it always feels out the front like it's on the verge of something. It's on the verge of collapsing or all hell breaking loose. It feels like it's teetering on the edge. So how do you manage to keep it tight out the back without being uptight out the front?
Yeah, I mean, one of our things that we sort of always tell everyone when they're hired or they start working with us is, you're inviting everyone to a party that you're hosting. And we want them to think that we are enjoying the party, but we're not enjoying it to the level that our guests should be. And I think it's a tricky, like I said earlier, I think you want your staff to have fun. There's still a job to be done. How do we do that? It's just teaching the ethos that it's all about the guest experience, and it's all about the people, and that includes our staff. You know, we've been blessed to have brought in some great people that, you know, fell for our trick that we were teaching and said, hey, I get this. This does make sense. And they've grown with that. And again, with our expansion, that was the biggest challenge. We were told that you're not going to be able to duplicate this in other locations. And I believe we have. You walk into employees only in New York, you feel that energy. You walk into employees only in Singapore, you feel that energy. LA, Sydney. And I think that's the one thing that we've been able to duplicate. I wish I could bottle it and give it to some of my friends that own places that aren't as fun. But yeah, you're right. I think the biggest thing about employees only is people always stay there a little bit longer than they would at most places, because they are on that. They're always thinking something fun is going to happen next. And maybe it doesn't, but that energy's there. And our staff is excited. I have staff members that are jumping out of their shoes at 5:59. And that's just something that we have been able to teach and grow with our staff. And again, we have an incredible staff, but I think that goes with the ethos that we've always put out. Let's have fun. Let's give a great experience, and let's make some money. You know? So
Dushan touched on this, and we've talked about this in previous conversations too. So Dushan said he always makes sure that staff, that you think of staff as an asset, not a liability. So it's kind of like a film producer going, I'm hiring a star and they will bring people to my film. You're like hiring good staff, they'll bring people to the bar. And you've talked about how you've got bartenders earning doctors' salaries in tips, and you're really happy for that to happen because if they're earning the tips, you're selling the drinks.
Right.
And is that part of it? Is it really? Is it a certain kind of person who you hire who understands that the front has to be fun, but the books still have to balance in the end? The till still, the till still has to balance and.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, obviously the till has to balance, right? We don't want any thievery, but I think we really try to keep the back of the house separate from the front of the house, other than the things that have to be communicated, again, to manage day-to-day activities. I want them to walk in, we want them to walk in as a staff and not have to worry about that a pipe burst earlier in the day, or that the computers went down last night, or that, you know, something wasn't delivered on time. So we really try to surround them with just this perfect work environment. You wouldn't want an astronaut getting into a spaceship and have to worry about, you know, the screws that, I don't know, whatever, something like that, to that effect. So I think we really respect what our staff does. And I think that's another important thing that a lot of operators, not a lot, too many operators don't respect the staff in the way that they should. If your staff's not operating at a high level, then you're not going to make it no matter how great your concept is, how flush you are with cash. You're going to fail. Your customers are going to have a terrible time. So I think surrounding them with that kind of support, making sure when they come in, they have everything they need, they're ready to go, they can fire on all cylinders, be happy and enjoy that shift, is really important. Yeah, we've been blessed. Our places do well, and luckily that benefits the staff. And like I said, some of them make more money than some of us as owners, but that's okay. And I think that's good. You know that when they're thriving, your business is going to stay in business. And I think, again, it's that balance. They're projecting that they're in the same level as the guest, enjoying themselves, but really they are working their butts off. And it's a really hard job. And to get people dedicated like that, it's not by chance, it's by the ethos that we've created and the strength of the partnership that we have, and all of us being on the same belief that it's the staff first. Never do I look at them as a liability or an expense. You know, minimum wage went up extremely high in New York, and we're all for it. We want better quality of life for our staff members. I don't look at that as like a line item that is where I have to cut, because you're not benefiting by taking away from what is deservingly given to your staff. You find the other line items to cut from, and that's what we've always done. And I think that's why we've had such a staff, no turnover in staff for the most part. That's kind of become an issue at some spots, but because we hire the new staff and they wait 10 years, but it's also a great problem to have, really.
So that theatre analogy of mine isn't really misplaced. You're like a bunch of stage managers and producers out the back, making sure that the show goes on and the actors just walk on and they just have to think about the bit where they work. So they're the superstars. They're the rock stars. They're the actors. They're the pilot of the ship. And without them, we would be nowhere. And we appreciate that. And we've brought some of them along into some of the future projects that we've done. And yeah, it's exciting. And again, it's been the ethos from day one. It's about our name is employees only. If we don't treat our employees right, how could we even call ourselves that? I mean, you know, it really is about the staff, and that generates that excitement and that energy level to our clientele. Of course, we care about our clientele, and that's a huge part of it as well. We want the best experience for when they walk in, but they're not going to get that if our staff is upset or having a terrible experience at work because we failed on our end at providing them that ultimate workspace. You know, obviously things happen. I'm not going to pretend that it's perfect every day. You know, everything seems to break on Saturday night at 12 a.m. when nobody's open to fix it. But, you know, but that's just part of the business as well. Cool. Thank you. Let's leave it there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I did go, and I know you don't drink. I did go. Where's the most famous with the martini cart? You got to wear a jacket and a tie. It was fantastic.
For the Ritz or the Savoy? So
I
one of
think it was
those?
the Savoy. I
Oh,
think it was
yeah.
the Savoy. Our server was like 80 years old. I mean, he was fantastic. It was just